Shalom, shalom, Israel. Everybody can hear me all right. If I can get a one in the chat, get my headband together. I think y'all should be able to hear me okay. Let me know. All right, the water, the water. All right, all right, shalom. All right. Yahweh Shua Shabbat Thumb to the brothers. Yahweh Shamar Allah Thumb by Shem Yahweh Shai to the sisters. We are the ISUPK Israel School Universal Practical Knowledge, started out of 1 West 125th Street under Commanding General Yohana. And we are not affiliated with any other Israelite group or any other Christian organization. Tonight is the Brotherhood class, and I'm going to attempt to do right by my brother, Officer Yagadar, as I pitch hit tonight. Y'all bear with me. I got some heavy shoes to fill, so I'm gonna try my best. All right. We are gonna get into it, as we always do. We no sweat, brother. We're gonna get into it like we always do. For brotherhood, we always want to ask these questions because obviously we learn from repetition. So the question is, first question, as we all know, what is synonymous with brotherhood? What is synonymous with brotherhood? What is synonymous with brotherhood? All right. We got my red Ra'ayah says sisterhood. That is absolutely correct. Sister Coco says sisterhood. Absolutely correct. Remember to sign in with your name, city, and state for attendance. I didn't even do my shout outs. I'm bugging. All right. We got Officer Yagadar in the building. Shalom, brother. Doing my shout outs real quick. And my real sister Ra'ayah in the building. And Sister Coco is also in the building. Shalom, shalom. There you go, sis. Good job. There you go. All right. So we know brotherhood is synonymous with sisterhood. And what is brotherhood and sisterhood? All right. The I said love. That is absolutely right. Absolutely right. Now the precept. Who can give me the precept? Officer Yagadar is on it. Absolutely right. First John 5:3. Sister I is also on it. First John 5:3. Correct. We're gonna pull that up real quick. First John 5:3. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. No sweat. Actually, I didn't catch it either. No sweat. No sweat. I knew the spirit of where you were going. No sweat. So this is the love of God. This is important, obviously, because so many of us, especially of us so-called blacks, Latinos, and First Nation people, we just make up love, as we go. We love to us becomes what feels good. Love to us becomes what makes us happy. Love to us becomes what gives us, those whatever those butterflies in your stomach, and oh, you just feel so wonderful when you think of this person. And in our minds, that's what love is in all these different ways, shapes, and forms, right? And the problem with the world and the Christian church and our oppressor is that no one knows what love is. No one knows what love is. No one has a definition for it outside of these scriptures. No one looks to these scriptures for what love is. Love becomes to you what you feel. Love becomes to the next person what they feel. And because of that, there's that is the recipe for chaos. There's no uh, there's no objective perspective on what love is if you're in the world or if you're in the Christian church. It's a function of what makes you feel better. For one person in the world, love is, I don't know, sending them flowers, right? A lot of our sisters love that. If you send them some flowers, they love you then. Somebody else, it might be, I don't know, cooking them a meal. That's how brothers typically, that's how we like to be treated. Because that's what ultimately it boils down to. How each individual would like to be treated becomes their perspective on what love is. There's nothing objective about it. It's just what makes me feel better. But that's not what the Bible says. As we see right here, it says, "For this is the love of God." What's coming is how you should understand what love is. Well, this is the benchmark that you should understand. This is the benchmark that you should base love on. For this is the love of God, that we keep His commandments. We have to keep His commandments in order to know what love is. That is love. Keeping his commandments is love. How is that love? Who can give me some examples of how keeping the commandments shows that we love our sisters and brothers, shows that brotherhood, shows that sisterhood that we're talking about. How is it? Give me some examples of of how keeping the law proves that you love your brothers and sisters. All right. Sister Rod says, staying with your marriage. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because staying with your marriage, staying with your spouse, if you are a man, making sure that you don't put your woman away just because you have another one. You don't put the mother of your children away just because you found something else that you like a little bit more. Making sure that if you are a woman, you do not sleep with any other man except your husband. What that does is make sure that our families are kept together. That makes sure that our as we understand who we are as Israelites, it ensures that our children come up with the right identity. It ensures that this young man and this young lady doesn't see her mother sleeping with Uncle Johnny and Uncle Dre and all these uncles that run all through the house because mommy is looking for love of what she thinks love is. Mommy is looking for a man to make her feel better, and and she'll take any man until that man makes her feel worse, and then she'll go to another. Staying with your marriage ensures that your daughter doesn't see you as a whore. That your daughter doesn't see you as a whore and think that that's how you should conduct yourself. Staying in your marriage as a woman makes sure that your son does not run out and do the same thing, sleep with women and throw them away, and then make women whores. Same with our brother, staying with your wife, even if you have another one, ensures that your son understands that there is a responsibility when you lay down with a woman. You don't get to just throw her away and make her someone else's whore. You don't get to do that. Your responsibility is to take on that woman and be responsible for her, to teach her, to make sure she knows what she should do, what she should not do, as you learn it in the truth. That's your responsibility. Taking on a woman is not something that we should just be lackadays on. It's a great responsibility to take on a woman, much less multiple women. As so many of the captains in the school say, it's not for every brother. Having one woman is not for every brother. But if you have one, understand that that is your responsibility and you can never leave her. That staying in your marriage as a man ensures that your son will understand what his responsibility is as he grows up. Staying with your a woman, if you are a man, ensures that your daughter knows what to expect from her husband. As as time goes on, you will choose your daughter's husband, but it will set the bar to make sure that she knows she cannot run out here and just do anything she wants to do, because she also has a responsibility to her husband. That is a great example. Officer Yagadar says counsel if issues can't be resolved one on one. Absolutely, absolutely. And matter of fact, I'll take it a step further. Even initially, if you have a problem, if you are a brother who has a problem with another brother, if you are a sister, you got a problem with another sister, your first step is to go to that brother or sister and talk to them directly. Before you talk to anyone else, you go address it with them first. That probably would cut out so much confusion and drama in our communities. If brothers would be mature, if sisters would be mature and understand, listen, let me sit down and talk to you. Not out of anger or any type of aggression. Hey, listen, let me talk to you, because you are my sister, you are my brother. Let me talk to you out of love. Let me just let you know how I felt when this happened. That cuts down on so much confusion. Because what we typically do in the Black, Latino, and Native Indian community, what do? We talk to everyone else. We talk to everyone else when we have a problem with one person. We need to go get an audience. Listen, so-called gossip in the community, that was there way before Facebook. Facebook is the same thing though. Social media is the same thing. People will have a problem with somebody, and they won't necessarily call them out directly, but they'll go to social media and make this ambiguous statement. Why? To get an audience, to get attention, to get somebody to agree with them. And what does it do to reconcile the issue? Absolutely nothing. It just makes them feel better about how they're feeling. That's it. It gives them an audience to say, yeah, girl, you right. Yeah, man, that's messed up. People chiming in when they have no perspective on what this person is even talking about. That was there way before, gossip in the community. That was there way before Facebook, because it's the same thing. It's you go and talk to everyone else, hoping that, or expecting that what you tell that person is going to make them more agreeable to how you're feeling. It's going to validate your feeling. It's not reconciling anything. It's not getting to the bottom of anything. It's not clarifying anything. It's just gaining you an audience to make you feel better about how you feel. But Officer Yagadar is absolutely right. The second step of that is, let's say you go to a brother or sister, which is what you should do as a mature adult. Go to your brother or sister. Hey, listen, this is how I felt about what happened, so on and so forth. I want to talk to you about it. And let's say they're not receptive to it. Nah, because you did, and blah, 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 blah. Okay. That's the next step to Officer Yagdad's point. Now you have counsel. Now you and that brother, you and that sister go before the leaders in this school. You know, you go before the captains and the generals, and you have a discussion about the specifics of what happened and how everyone feels, and let's get everything out on the table and come to some kind of conclusion. What does that cut down on? Why is that so important? Because if we think about it, when you first go to them, which is again, when you're supposed to first go to them one on one, it doesn't work out. No problem. Then we have counsel. Because if we don't have counsel and I come to you and it doesn't work out, what's typically the aftermath? Who can tell me? And you all are phrasing it wonderfully. This rise to confusion and a long lasting feud. Absolutely. Officer Yagandar said confusion. Those are both right answers. But typically in our communities, violence. Long lasting feud that will lead to violence at some point. That's typically what happens in our community. Now bear with me 1 second. There you go. I was looking for it. Thank you, brother. I'm gonna pull it up here. Officer Yagandar put the precept in the chat. I'm gonna pull it up. And that's what I'm talking about. When we talk about brotherhood. Brother got my back all the time, and I appreciate it. Absolutely. Let's see. Matthew 18 and 15. All right. It says, moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. Now, we all know brotherhood, like we said, brotherhood is synonymous with sisterhood. So while this is saying brotherhood, this applies to the sisters as well. But if you feel like, what does it say is, if you feel like your brother has done something against you, then you go to that brother and him alone. You go to that sister and her alone. You don't necessarily have to go and tell, not even not necessarily, you should not go and tell everybody everything. Now, from a practical perspective, right? Why is that? Why is it dangerous to go and tell other people issues that you have with a brother or sister? Why can that be a dangerous thing? Trooper Kazaki in the building. Yeah, how about Shannon Shabbat brother? Right, right. Obviously, Yagda, he said we typically resort to violence and bloodshed over the smallest disputes. Those are things that absolutely happen in our communities. It has not, it's we people in our communities are unalive over the smallest things, the smallest of confusions, the smallest of misunderstandings. Not all the time, but it does happen. Now there are other issues that we have, and so many of them could be resolved just by following the law. We're gonna get to some of those in a second also. But so often a miscommunication, a misunderstanding blows up, as the sister said earlier, it festers and it becomes this long-term thing. And now somebody want to pull out, somebody want to pull out the tool because it's too much of this. I'm tired of this. I'm sick of this. Stuff goes on so long that people don't even know why after a while. It's like, well, what happened between y'all? I don't even know. I just don't like that cat. It turns into those type of things over the smallest of disputes, as the brother said. Let's see. All right, Sister I said, when it comes to marriage, I always tell sisters you never speak ill about your husband because they don't love him. They don't love him, so they will judge and not forgive. Get that sister a hand, absolutely. And she's talking specifically about marriage, but the same principle applies. Meaning this, you don't want to you don't want to go to someone else and talk about your brother or sister. You don't want to do that because they may not have the relationship with your brother or sister that you do. You might have a great relationship with that brother or sister. It's just a misunderstanding. You may not have a great relationship with that brother or sister, and it's still a misunderstanding. But what you end up doing is impugning that brother or sister's character to somebody else, and you haven't even attempted to get to the bottom of it. So you can potentially end up making somebody look at a brother or sister in a terrible light for something that you haven't even tried to reconcile. So now you're bringing, negative energy and all that good stuff their way just because you don't want to be a mature person and just go talk to them. That's what we're essentially talking about. And that's absolutely why you can disparage your brother and sister's character over, and it could be something that you're absolutely wrong about because you haven't had the conversation, you don't know. Obviously, Yagna is absolutely right. He said gossip compounds miscommunication. Who all has? I don't even know. It's a. I don't know the name of this thing, but kind of like who has done this at some point, probably coming up in school. You had the little exercise where somebody maybe at the beginning of the class whispered something in somebody's ear, and everybody was supposed to repeat it all the way down the line. And then by the time you get to the end, it's completely botched, and whatever the first thing was is absolutely wrong. Sister Isa, is that the telephone game? Is that what that's called? Okay, all right. Yeah, that's absolutely how. And who can tell me, Sister Isa Khan, who else has experienced that? Okay, y'all all got the name. Obviously, y'all can tell us a telephone game. Sister Coco said Khan. Right. That's how gossip compounds miscommunication. That's a real live example of it. Because what happens is when you go talking to somebody else about your issue with a sister or brother, what's the next step? What's the next link in the chain? Who can tell me? There you go. Your sister Raya in hand. They run tell that. You can tell them outright. All right, don't tell nobody. I'm just gonna talk to you about it. I ain't talking to nobody else. What they gonna say? Sure. Yeah, I ain't gonna tell nobody. And as soon as you walk away, they gonna tell somebody. And what they gonna say to them? Don't tell nobody. And now we got the telephone game in real life. And invariably, what happens is whoever you had an issue with, something gets back to them, and now you have absolute confusion. Right, right. That person tells another one, and so on. That's how it compounds miscommunication. Because the miscommunication was the initial discussion. You got an issue with somebody, you tell somebody else. That's the initial miscommunication because you shouldn't have told them in the first place. And now it compounds because it runs through the community. It runs through our community. That's why we have the laws that we have, so that we can function as a community in an effective manner, so that we can express and show respect for one another. We can be mature. We can minimize confusion and chaos. That's what these laws, statutes, and commandments are absolutely about. All right. Let me see. Make sure I missed some comments up here. Let me make sure I get them all. Um, right. Sister I say can damage the reputation over confusion. That's exactly what can happen. You can have a legitimate perspective on an issue with a brother, but not handling it right can cause you to then have to apologize to that brother. Because again, you may have your perspective and you may be absolutely wrong. You may think the brother said or did a thing. You may think the sister said or did a thing, and then when you go talk to him, oh, I completely had that mixed up. I was confused. You know what? My fault. But how you gonna fix that if you've already ruined the brother or sister's reputation? Now you're gonna run back and the person you told, okay, now you gotta tell them you was wrong. Maybe that'll happen. Still not the right thing. But like we said, they done ran and told everybody. Is it gonna really get all the way back through that line? No, because that's not what we do. We are so happy to run tell that, as the sister said, run tell negative stuff, but we don't do that for positive stuff. We don't do that for clarification. So this is why we stop it at the beginning. Don't do it. All right. Uh, let's see. Yagadar said that's not fair to the brother you in conflict with or the person you gossip to. That's another good point. That is a great point. Give that brother a hand. Because that person that you are talking to, you kind of put them in a position at that point. You put them in a tough spot because they don't know the situation 9 times out of 10. Because this is what we do too. When we go gossip, we only give the perspective and the parts of the story that make us look good. We get the parts of the story that make us look like we've been done so wrong. And then we put the person in the position that, can they even give you some good brotherly advice? Probably not. And depending on the dynamics of things, I mean, are you talking to them about somebody that they know? Like the brother said, that puts them in a position there. They don't even have a problem with the brother. No, not till you came and told them something. Just that simple act of going directly to your brother or sister, as the scripture says, between thee and him alone. But it says, as it goes on, verse 15, it says, if he shall hear thee, meaning if he or she understands where you're coming from, if they give you a you know, I won't say a listening ear, but if they're open to hearing what you're saying, and you know what, hey, listen, my fault, brother, I didn't even know you felt that way. My fault, sis, I didn't know you took it that way. I didn't think that I came off that way. My fault. See how simple misunderstandings can get cleared up? It could be that simple. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. Hey, because that quickly, everything can be done. We good, man. Let's keep it moving. We got work to do. Especially in here. We got work to do. Verse 16, it says, but if he shall not hear thee, okay, he ain't feeling it. Nah, I ain't do that. I ain't do that. I'm not hearing what you're saying. Right? It says, then take with thee one or two more. That's very key. It doesn't say take a whole panel of people. It doesn't say get a whole gang of people and try to make somebody feel uncomfortable and uh, bend their will to this mob of people because you've been out here talking to everybody. This isn't necessary. What do they call them? Them things when people are on they trying to get people off drugs. Uh, somebody give it to me. What's that word? They had a show. Enter ah, intervention. That's it. Intervention. This is not an intervention necessary. All right. This is there you go. The wise. The wise. This is not an intervention. This is you taking a couple, one or two people. That's it. Somebody to help mediate the process. Somebody to help have a conversation. Somebody to clarify where there may be a disconnect. That's all. So take one or two more. That in the mouth of two or three witnesses, every word may be established. This is just to get some understanding. Because you couldn't work it out on your own with your brother. So now let me bring some elders, some captains, some generals. Let me bring the brother to a council so we can have a discussion now. Maybe I can get the brother to understand where I was coming from. Maybe I need to be the one to understand where that brother's coming from. That's how we do things out of love. Because what we should be always working toward is reconciling with each other. We should be always working towards slack. We should be always working towards getting past an issue. Getting past an issue. Even, listen, my fault, bro. I didn't know you felt that way. That's not even how I meant it, bro. My fault. Now we can move on and get back to this work. All right. All right. Let's keep going. Let me see. Oxy Yagadar says an unbiased and lawful mediator. Exactly. Exactly. An unbiased, lawful mediator. That's it. Somebody with a better understanding than you, and somebody that can navigate through these misunderstandings. Because again, 9 times out of 10, that's what they are. And even if they're not, let's say how you felt is exactly how you felt, and you have somebody else. I mean, you were valid in how you felt, and the brother or sister just didn't want to hear it. Well, that's why you come get, as Officer Yagadar said, an unbiased, lawful mediator to explain. And we have a hierarchy here. We have a hierarchy in here. So we are held accountable for our actions in all ways. So if you are right, that's why you bring brothers to counsel. That's why you bring sisters to counsel. If you're wrong, you still bring brothers and sisters to counsel to figure out what's the situation if two individuals can't reconcile it on their own. All right. Let's see. Sister Aya said, if sisters have issue, who do we look to be the mediators? Make sure. Okay, sister said, brothers go to the council. Who do we go to as sisters? Well, the first person you would go to, uh, most sisters, the first person they're gonna go to after they talk to a sister is their husband. And their husband will go, up the line to the leadership to figure that out. It's any sister who's in the school who does not have a husband, she will go to the camp leader. In this case, Officer Salaki, Captain Natsazat Nashad. There's an issue with a sister, that's who you go to. All right. Right, as the brother said, counsel is for all of us. It operate. The flow is a little different when it's sisters, but counsel is absolutely for all of us. It is not just for brothers. Absolutely right. All right. Um, let's keep going. Verse 17. It says, no sweat says. It says, and if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it to the church. So now we've got a larger group of people. So we went to him one on one. Brother sister didn't want to hear it. We got one or two more people said, "Listen, man, this was a situation, brother. Look, sis, this was a situation." And one or two people hear it out. Hey, I get where the brother sister's coming from. No, I still ain't did it. Well, now we got to go to a larger group because now this is pretty. I mean, most of us is not going to get that far. I would hope. If you have a love for your people, most of us not gonna get that far. You're gonna understand. Once some other folks come to you, okay, all right, maybe it was me, right? So tell it to the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen man and a publican. At that point, you know, you might as well be Esau. You might as well be Moab. Why? Because you're not willing to hear and work towards reconciliation. You are clearly showing that you don't have a love for your brother at this point. All right. Let me see where we at. Okay. So as we can see by the title, right? says voting is the opposite of brotherhood. All right. And we know following the law is brotherhood, is love, is sisterhood. Who can tell me the precept for why we should not vote? Give y'all a couple minutes, see if y'all get it. Okay, there we go. Who wants to give it a shot? All right. Super Kazaki said Deuteronomy 17 and 9. All right, we're going to read that. I don't think that's it, but we're going to read it. Let's see. Obviously, Raj and Math in the building. How about Shana Shabakata? Let me see. All right, we're going to pull it up. All right, this is not the precept for that, but you are in the right chapter, brother. Verse 9 says, and thou shalt, and thou shalt come unto the priest, the Levites, and unto the judge that shall be in those days, and inquire, and they shall show thee sentence of judgment. That's not quite it. Not quite it. But up, look at Officer Yagadog boy. He is on it tonight. He has Deuteronomy 17 and 15. That is absolutely it. Oh, the water officer, you're right. The water, sir. All right. 17 and 15, Deuteronomy says, thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the most high thy power shall choose. One from among thy brethren, one from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother. So this is the absolute precept as to why we should not be voting, because that is exactly the process. We are in captivity here in this wicked kingdom. And especially, listen, we all know, right? Everybody in this class, we all know that every single president has been an absolute heathen. Every single president of this country has been an absolute heathen, right? Our problem is our brothers and sisters in the world don't know that. They think there's been one. They think there's been one. They think Obama was not a heathen. They think he is our people. I'm gonna show y'all something in a few minutes, a little later, that it is absolutely not true. All right. But all of these presidents and the majority of everybody in politics are strangers. What are strangers? Who can tell me? They are strangers to us. What is a stranger? Chupa Shamaga Bar in the building. Now about Shana Shabakata. Who are strangers? Your Chupa Kazaki at hand. Anybody who's not our people. Boil that down a little bit tighter for me, though. Boil that down a little bit tighter. Heathens, absolutely, that is true. Let me see. Sister Raya says, not in the truth or part of the nation. Um, yes, but not exactly in this context. I want to make sure we're keeping the right context. Give Trooper Shamaga Bar a hand. Non-Israelites. Non-Israelites. In this context, what the Most High is saying is, do not set somebody up above you who is not an Israelite, who is not someone of your family of these 12 tribes of Israel. Why? Who can tell me why? And there are several answers. But who can tell me? Give me something. Give me one. Give me two. Oh, wait. I'm see Rashi Shabbat said, damn right, I'm not Israelite. Damn right. Oh, Kyle. Obviously, Rashbot is exactly right. First answer is because God says so. Absolutely. All right. Sister Raj said they don't have love for us because they are not our people. Another way to phrase that is they are our enemies. That is absolutely right. They are our enemies. And we need to be aware that we don't need to be putting our enemies above us in rulership. We have to be aware of that. What's another reason? What happens? How can I phrase this? What happens once you put another nation over you? No, not over you. Let's just be real. What happens when we put other nations over us? See if y'all can get where I'm going. Obviously, Yagadah said they're going to do their will and not the Most High. Absolutely. There we go. Give Officer Yagadah a hand. They devour us. They devour us. Because Zaki said we go into slavery. That's true for disobeying the Most High. Absolutely. But typically, before we even get there, we're devoured. We're devoured. And in being devoured, we end up on the bottom. We end up on the bottom of society because what you essentially have to do, once you put another nation ahead of you or above you, you have essentially joined yourself willingly to that nation. You have subjected yourself to that nation. That's one of the reasons voting is so wicked. It's a voluntary subjugation to another nation. You're giving another nation, you're granting the another nation power over you. And we are another question: where does our power come from? Where should we be looking to for our power? Right, as the sister says, power over us. That's what we grant when we vote. That's what we are giving. Not only, and listen, let me be clear. It's not even just where we voting for Esau. No, voting for a so-called Israelite. So-called Black, Hispanic, or Native Indian, that's the same thing. Why? Because it's their system. It's their structure. That's what it is. That's us believing that we can be part of the system and change it from the inside and so on and so forth. But all it is acclamation and subjugation to a heathen's system. Right. Our power is supposed to come from the Most High. And the only way we get it is to follow these laws, statutes, and commandments. That's what we should be doing. But once we decide we're going to vote for another nation to be ahead of us, now we don't trust in the Most High anymore. We don't trust in this heathen. Right. Get a brother in hand. Voting is against the Most High. We don't need to vote if we follow the law, statutes, and commandments. We don't need to vote then because then we have the Most High on our side. Then we have the protection of the Most High. Then we're fine. Let me see. Brother pulled another scripture. Let me see. 1 Samuel 8:8. Let me pull that up. Ah, absolutely. Good precept, brother. Let's see. 1 Samuel verse 8. It's like verse first. Let me get it together. 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 8 is according to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them out of Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and served other gods. So do they also unto thee. That's what happens. That's what happens when we set other nations over us. We end up serving their gods. And why would we not? We clearly don't trust ours anymore, which is why we're voting in the first place. It's one of the most basic and wicked showings and expressions that we have no love for the Most High. We hate the Most High when we go vote and put somebody else over top of us. Sister Nah in the building. Yahweh Shemala Thala Shem Yashasa. All right, he says, verse 4 is when we beg for a king. Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and came to Saul unto Marah and said to him, Behold, verse 5, and said to them, Behold, thou art old, thou sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king and judge us right. God, that's exactly what it was. We begged for a king. But even here, the king came out of our brethren, somebody that understood our culture, understood our heritage, and what's more important, understood the Most High and what his requirements were. All right. All right. Where was I? Lost my train of thought for a second. Y'all bear with me. Right. Um, what we also don't understand is how important and why it's so important to follow the law, statutes, and commandments. Not only just because the Most High says, right? Because that's definitely the first reason. That's absolutely the first reason. The Most High told us that's what we were supposed to do. But what does following the law, statutes, and commandments? What would it do? What did it do um, for Israel when it comes to the other nations? What did following the law, statutes, and commandments do for us as a nation in the perspective of other of other nations, in the perspective from the perspective of heathens. What did it do for us? Who can tell me? Who wants to give it a shot? What did following the law, statutes, and commandments, when that's what we did, what would it do? What did it do for us in respect to these heathen nations? It showed them what? I love Officer Yagadaya. He is on it tonight. Give him an absolute hand. Officer Yagadaya is not playing. Deuteronomy chapter 4. I'm gonna start at 5. I'm gonna start at 5. It says, "Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Most High my power commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither you go to possess it." We were taught the law, statutes, and commandments. We were taught the law, statutes, and commandments. This is what the Most High told Moses. This is what you should be doing. I believe this is Moses talking. Pretty sure. Might have to double check that. But we were still taught the law, statutes, and commandments. This is what we were told to do, no matter where we were. Which means even as we're in captivity here, we should be keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. Right? Why? Verse 6. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations. Us keeping our law, statutes, and commandments shows these nations, proves to these nations that we are wise. Why are we in the position that we're in now? Because we're out here acting foolish, following other cultures, following other nations, doing the things that they want to do. As the brother said earlier, they're not following what the Most High wants. They're following what they want, and we're riding with it. We support it. We say, yeah, whatever y'all. I mean, what y'all want to do? Let's vote on it. As if that's some. This is the other illusion of voting. Voting prevents you from having to. I want to see if I can get y'all to answer this question. Voting allows you to feel. I'm just gonna say it. Voting allows you to not feel like. Con, obviously, Agdar said voting shows we want to be like them. That's absolutely true. But what it also does is alleviates you from having to take an order. Because what we do is convince ourselves that because we voted for it, we were part of the process of decision making. Another good point. Give Officer Yagadar a hand. He said voting makes us lazy concerning building our own nation. Absolutely. That's absolutely right. It makes us lazy and rebellious. Because again, we don't want to have anybody tell us what to do, which is why we have such a problem following the law, statutes, and commandments. We want to do everything that we want to do, what makes us feel better. But voting is an illusion, particularly in America for Blacks, Latinos, and First Nation people. It's an illusion that you are actually participating in the decisions that get made in this country. So it's not like anybody's telling you what to do. It's hey, we all came to this decision together, which is absolutely a lie. Which is why it doesn't matter who's in office, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, Blacks, Latinos, and First Nation people always end up on the bottom. It's because it's a complete illusion. They're going to do everything that they want to do that benefits their nation, as they should, but they convince us to go along with it. And we're so destroyed we don't see it. So, let's see where I am. Okay, y'all bear with me for a second. What was that other one? Right. Get to that one too. Right. Give Officer Yagadar a hand. He says, Khan, so you're complicit in your own demise, i.e., vote Democrat, and then they bring a three strikes bill. Exactly. Exactly. And then we continue to be complicit because we don't understand how this stuff works. And so, right now, while Joe Biden wrote the bill, the three strikes law that put so many brothers behind bars and made a whole a generation of slaves, according to the 13th Amendment. Then you have what, 20 years later, because there's a brown face and Obama that he is the Biden is the vice president to. Now he runs for president, and all of us go out and vote for him. Again, further participating in our own demise. But this is what happens because we are preyed upon by this oppressor primarily, but every other heathen nation. This is Ezekiel 34:8. Says, as I live, saith the most high power, surely because my flock became a prey, and my flock became meat to every beast of the field. We are prey to these other nations. These other nations feed off of us daily, and we participate in it. We go and hit the ballot, and then you hear stuff like, well, you got to go because folks died for you to have this right, as if it's something to be proud of. When somebody else says that to you, ask them what has happened, whether it's been Republican or Democrat, because most of our people right now are Democrat, and every 4 years, especially around the presidential election, they be all uptight. I don't know how many conversations I have with people, and I'm like, nah, I don't vote. What? You gotta get out there and vote. Your ancestors died for that. Really? What has it gotten us? What you mean? Oh, now, okay. Well, let's get into the discussion then. They're not gonna want to have it, or they'll be honest and say, well, it really don't matter. And then you hear the rest of the The cliches. Well, you can't complain if you don't vote. How about we just follow the law, statutes, and commandments? It's the same thing anyway. Whether we go out there and vote as a nation of blacks, Latinos, and First Nation people, it does not matter. How about we just follow the law, statutes, and commandments? Even if you don't, if anybody out there who's not in the school, even if you don't believe that following the law, statutes, and commandments will work, just try it. Because why not? Who was it? Donald Trump said, what the hell you got to lose? Slocky. Let me get back to what my brother said. This is terrible. But we're so destroyed as a people. We're so destroyed that we don't understand. We so, as Officer Yagadar said, we want to be lazy in building our nation. We want to be like these other nations. And so we become, we just acclimate ourselves to our destruction. Sister says, then get all the rappers and singers and tell us to go vote. Right, right, right. Then they make it a whole campaign about going to vote. Mind you, our communities continue to be destroyed. We continue to be number one in every health issue there is because we don't follow the dietary laws. We continue to be number one locked up and reintroduced to slavery. But we need to vote because that's going to do what? Vote Democrat, and now the LGB 123s will classify men and women as cis. Listen, I don't understand. I don't understand. This whole LGB alphabet community thing. I don't understand. We're so destroyed. That stuff has nothing to do with so-called blacks, Latinos, and First Nation people. The vast majority of us understand that that's Esau's issue. That's the oppression issue. And this is not UPK. This is my humble opinion. All right. My humble opinion is Esau wants to do that because he wants to have some reason to say he's being discriminated against, he's being mistreated. Because everybody knows he's the worst oppressor. He's the main oppressor on the planet. That's just my humble opinion, so I'm not going to go too far into that. Sister said, yet they always in life is in their always use us. I think she's saying in life use us in their plight. I think she mean. I think that's what she mean. If that is, she's absolutely right because what they end up doing is using us to perpetuate whatever, like she said, whatever plight, whatever movement that they want, which is what happened with the so-called women's movement. They came and got our sisters to make that move. It's honestly the same thing with the alphabet community. Black Lives Matter has nothing to do with the black family or black people. That is an alphabet movement also. They always latch on to us to help them. Oh no, sweat. They always latch on to us to help them move their objectives along. And then once they're done, they're done. That's what's happening right now. There's all this so-called controversy about, as Officer Yagadar said, whether you're a biological or cis woman or you're a trans woman. It's cats out there because I don't know what to call them. It's people out there who want to say that women aren't the gatekeepers for like their period. Like what? They don't own women don't own womanhood. I heard that. I saw somebody say that straight faced. How is that possible? How is that possible, sir? I don't understand, but this is what happens because if you think about it, a lot of, and this is not a shot against you sisters, but it's the truth. All right, when these movements started, our sisters were who they ran to for support in a lot of ways because us brothers weren't having it, but the sisters were more receptive to it. And now that they've gotten some momentum, now there wants to be a disconnect. There, nah, y'all don't own womanhood. What? I saw a clip the other day where the person, I mean, he was born a man, talked about how when he was, I don't know, even when he was some age, when he was younger, every month he started having cramps and stuff, and nobody knew what it was for. Yeah, no joke, they didn't know what it was for. What are you talking about? Anyway, all right, let me calm down. Let's see what the sister says because sisters weren't being led by a man in the truth. Give that sister an absolute hand. You can see it tracking. They broke up our families, right? We talked about welfare and the orphan situation and all that. We talked about all that, how they made it a concerted effort to break up our families. Now, then you have the women movement come along. Well, we don't need men. Only our sisters saying that. Now our sisters have no men, and then you got this alliance with this whole trans and alphabet thing. And then as soon as they were done with our sisters, they threw them away. Let's see what the brother said. It says, Khan, and no man has ever had a damn menstrual cycle. Thank you, brother. Absolutely not. They played our sisters and now they don't need them no more. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. All right. But again, all of this comes from partly from voting because they use us to get the numbers, particularly the Democratic Party. They typically use blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians. They get the numbers, and then they go do whatever they want to do. Obama's the perfect example of it. Perfect example of it. We came out in record numbers to support him. And what do we get? Do we get a bill? Do we get some kind of protection? Nope. The alphabet community did though. Let's keep going. Um, Going back to the scripture, it says, because there was no shepherd, neither did my shepherds search for my flock, but the shepherds fed themselves and fed not my flock. That's what's happening in the Christian church. That is the Christian church all day. We are beasts for these other nations, and the so-called shepherds, the so-called leadership, these pastors of these churches feed themselves. They don't feed us. Matter of fact, again, every 4 years, anybody who grew up in a Christian church or attended a Christian church for any significant amount of time, you know what happens every 4 years or every local cycle. Pastor get up on a Sunday, and then before we get to the service, we're gonna have a candidate such and such come and speak to y'all. And 9 times out of 10, it's Esau. And he gonna come and try to make some kind of references to, black stereotypical culture. If he's Bill Clinton, he gonna come play the saxophone. If he's Hillary Clinton, and this, you know what? I just hit this right now. He played the saxophone. She walking around with hot sauce. Yo, these two are the worst. Absolute worst. And our people love them. But that's what happens in the church. They don't feed us. They don't feed our people. They feed themselves. And so they parade a crooked politician or candidate in front of the church with hot sauce. There you go. Hot sauce in their pocket. And that's supposed to make us feel like, yeah, they relate to us. They understand our plight. Get out of here, man. We don't know who we are. We don't know what we're supposed to be doing. We are absolute. That's why the Bible calls us lambs. We are, as Captain Natsai Shah says all the time, the lamb is a dumb animal. Sheeps are dumb animals. And this is how we operate. We are led down these roads by these shepherds who do not feed us. We join ourselves to these heathens who do not care about us. So let me get into. Let me see. We pull up. See if I can do it a different way. Pull up this article that came out in June. Right, right. I'm see how it's done. He said you put that up, shit on everything, and we fell for a hook line. Exactly, exactly. They talk a good game, but again, we never get anything out of this. We never get anything out of this. And again, we're so destroyed as a people, we don't even look at it objectively. Meaning our elders, meaning people who are literally older than us and have been around longer. I'll give you an example. I have a great relationship with my father. We talk a lot about this type of stuff. Now, you don't obviously agree. He ain't in school. You don't agree with a lot of stuff. That's fine. But being 70 plus, he is still fully dedicated. You need to vote. What has it done? And then there's a pause. Because we don't have the ability to even objectively look at it. Just step back and go, whoa, what does this work? Is this working for us? We don't do that because we're so tied to this oppressor. We don't know who we are. We don't have an identity. So this is the best we got, and this is what we're trying to acclimate to. This is what we're trying to join to. And this is why it's so important for us to get the word out to our brothers and sisters, to wake them up so they can understand who they are and what they should and shouldn't be doing. All right. Let's see. So this article, though, this came out in June. So just like month before, it's just over 30 days, I think it is. So check this out. I found this very interesting. All right, I might make them. I'm probably gonna need to make that a little bigger. Bear with me. That's gonna do what I want. Hold on, Slocky. It's not doing what I wanted. It's not gonna do what I wanted. All right, y'all may not be able to see this as well as I want y'all to, but I'm gonna have to make it smaller just because it's not coming up on the screen correctly. All right. Right. Good point. Get a brother a hand. Asians don't vote. You go out. Listen, when you go out to the polls, you don't see a whole lot of Asians out there. They still got a bill though. Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is going to be a good example, a good perspective on another perspective on why voting doesn't work. Right? It's not of the Most High. He told us not to do it. We're doing it anyway. But let me get y'all a better breakdown. Right? Get to this title if I can. Right quick. Uh, nope. Forget it. I just start from here. Says, like I said, this came out in June. It says, as U.S. lawmakers commemorated the end of slavery by celebrating Juneteenth this month, back in June, Many of them could have looked no further than their own family. Uh, for a more personal connection, and you got that little ad right there. But for a more personal connection to what's often called America's original sin. That's what they call slavery. Let's be clear. America's original sin is not slavery, because our Native American brothers and our First Nation brothers suffered all type of brutality before we were brought over here. They suffered all type of brutality and unaliving and the Trail of Tears and all type of savagery. That's this nation's true original sin. All right. But we all know what they're talking about. So let's go on. It says in researching the genealogies of America's political elite, a Reuters examination found that a fifth of the members of Congress, living presidents, Supreme Court justices, and governors are direct descendants of ancestors who enslaved black people. Among the 536 members of the last sitting Congress, for example, Reuters determined that at least 100 descend from slaveholders. This is why. This is a practical reason why the Most High told us don't put other nations above us. We are voting in large part for people whose ancestors owned ours. Now, while I don't think any of us are surprised, it gives some specifics that I don't think most people think about. Most people don't think about, well, that was, that's not the great, great, great grandson of someone who owned my great, great grandmother or whatever the numbers are. Absolutely. Brother said that's wild. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because of that group, more than a quarter of the Senate. So, Senator, what is it? The Senate has 2 members per state. So that's 100 members. 28 members can trace their families to at least one slaveholder. At least one slaveholder. Which means more than one of them, several of them had several slave owners in their ancestry. But people want to say things like, well, that was long ago. Nobody who lives now was a slave owner. How much did you benefit directly? And this is going to get into some other dynamics that we know that you don't necessarily have to be a direct descendant of a slave owner to benefit. All these nations benefited from our slavery. But how much more did you benefit as a direct descendant of a slave owner? But yet you're in the government. You help to make laws. And we wonder why nothing happens, no matter who's in office. Let's keep going. Among these lawmakers from the 117th Congress are Democrats and Republicans alike. They include some of the most influential politicians in America. Politicians, it's like Republican. I think they had a senator, Republican Senator Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Tom Cotton, and Democrats Elizabeth Warren, Tammy Duckworth, and Jean Shaheen, I believe is how you pronounce that. In addition, Reuters determined that President Joe Biden and every living former U.S. president except Donald Trump are direct descendants of slaveholders. What does that mean? Everyone except Donald Trump is a direct descendant of a slaveholder. Who is shocked? There's one. Everybody, yeah, it even threw me off. Right. Yeah, absolutely. This puts an absolute face on this. These are the type of things that we need to know so we know who we're dealing with. We know what our situation and our position is here, and we know why. This is why we should not be voting. I mean, we shouldn't be voting because Most High said so, but this is a practical understanding of it. It says, uh, except Donald Trump, a direct descendant of slaveholders, Jimmy Carter, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and through white, his white mother's side, Barack Obama. Two of the 9 sitting U.S. Supreme Court justices, Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch, also have, I think it was ties to ancestors that enslaved black people. And these ads are in these corners, so it's lucky for that. What's a Quashan in the building? Y'all about to show at the top? Says in 2022, 2 of the 50 U.S. states also had governors who were descendants of slaveholders, Reuters found. They include 8 chief executives of the 11 states that form the Confederate States of America, which seceded and waged war to preserve slavery. So, what this is talking about is the the states that seceded from the Union after Lincoln was elected president. So you had 11 states. They were like, you know what, we're gonna make our own country because y'all gonna try to get rid of slavery. All right, cool. I mean, not cool, but y'all get my point. Out of those 11 states, 8 of them have governors today who, Salakia, are the descendants of slave. Not descendants of slave, descendants of slave owners. And we wonder again why we can't get justice because there's no interest in it. We all know we learn from our parents. Our parents teach the parents teach the children, and those children teach their children. All these men who are, all these people who are in charge of making laws, a good chunk of them, their forefathers owned slaves. So where is their interest? Another good point. Give Officer Yagadar a hand. And unlike us, they know their family lineage and history. They know who they are. Listen, this was last year sometime. We were out handing out flyers, and we were in downtown Richmond, and it was at this like little festival, and everybody was brothers and sisters selling items and stuff, and so we're talking to brothers, handing out flyers, talking to sisters, right? And this he looked like he's relatively younger. He's light skinned guy. He actually looked like I got the brother's name, the basketball player, real light skinned. Griff, Griffin. I don't be watching basketball like that. Y'all help me out. Blake Griffin, that's his name. He put you in the mind of him, right? As far as his complexion and skin tone. So he walks up and he asks Captain Natsal and Shah about, can I have some information and so on and so forth. So the captain gets to talking to him for a little bit, and he was like, um, you are what your father is. He asked him his nationality. He said he was mixed. And, Cap was like, no, there's no such thing. You are what your father is. So, you asked him about that. And this guy, to Officer Yakadar's point, he was like, well, my great 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 grandfather on my father's side was a like an officer in the Confederate Army and blah 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 blah. It was like, yeah, you know exactly who you are. You know exactly what your lineage is because you're Esau. They know their lineage, which is further proof of who we are because we don't. That is an absolutely excellent point, brother. All right, let's keep going. Says there are two seeking the Republican nomination for president: Asa Hutchinson, the former governor of Arkansas, and Doug Burgum, whatever, of North Dakota. Listen, Cap's so smooth with it, right? Cap was like, because we were sitting in front of a brother. He had a business where he was selling, I think, sweet potato pies or something like that. It had been in his family for years, decades, whatever. So once he said that, Cap was like, "Well, go and get yourself some sweet potato pie. And, you have a good one." He was real smooth with it. We never gave him a fly. Absolutely not. All right. It says Reuters found that at least 8% of Democrats in the last Congress and 28% of Republicans have such ancestors, meaning they all are the descendants of slave owners. Um, the preponderance of Republicans reflect the party's strength in the South, where slavery was concentrated. Although white people enslaved black people in the northern states and in early America, by the eve of the Civil War, slavery was almost entirely a Southern enterprise. Okay, we know that is absolute nonsense. God, God, he is. He was smooth. He was smooth. He was smooth with it, man. God. Um, Yeah, but this statement that by the eve of Civil War, slavery was almost entirely a Southern enterprise. I mean, it was the bulk of it was there, but as we talked a few classes ago, there were so-called Northern states that did not free the slaves until after 6 or 7 months after Juneteenth. So while this is the narrative, this is not necessarily accurate. All right, and we understand that. All right. South Carolina, where the Civil War began, illustrates the familial ties between lawmakers and the nation's history of slavery. Every member of the state's 9-person delegation to the last Congress has an ancestral link to slave owners. The state's 2 black members of Congress, Senator and Republican presidential candidate Tim Scott and Representative James Clyburn, a powerful Democrat, have forebears who were enslaved. Now, this is the picture. All these people are in South Carolina. All of them are politicians. 9 of them, who are Esau, have direct ties and ancestral links to slave holders. The 2 black members of Congress have direct ties to enslaved people. So you are literally working with the sons of your forefathers, or the sons of your forefathers enslavers. Get that brother a hand. Right. When people want to talk about people died for the right to vote, this is what our forefathers died for. This is what the ancestors died for, our freedom to not be part of this nation, to separate ourselves from this nation. The will and gumption to follow the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments, the discipline to do so. That's what our ancestors died for, not the right to vote. When you end up voting for your ancestors' direct oppressor. Direct oppressor. All right, let's keep going. No, 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 no. Each of the 7 white lawmakers who served in the 117th Congress is a direct descendant of a slaveholder, Reuters found. So too is the state's Republican governor, Henry McMaster. So listen, descendants of slaveholders are all in throughout South Carolina's government. That's what this essentially says. Says the new insights into the political elite's ancestral links to slavery come at a time of renewed intense debate about the meaning of the institution's legacy and what, if anything, lawmakers should do about it. Such topics include what to teach about slavery and racism in America's classrooms. Officer Yagada talked about it, I think maybe last week, when he talked about the idea that Florida is now wants their message is that slavery was good for black people because it taught them skills. We should be thankful. But this is the type of thing that happens when you align yourself with a nation that cares nothing for you. So now people are all uptight. Now people are all upset. I can't believe they're doing that. We're not surprised in here. We are not surprised in the ISUPK that is what's happening now. And I hope somebody out there is understanding too that this is why. How much more would they want to change and whitewash history once they're in a position of political power, knowing that they have direct relations, direct ancestral relation to the slave owner? Of course, yes, it wasn't even that bad. That's the message they're going to want to push, and they're doing it. Sister says, it says wanted to bite, but she corrected herself. Wanting to vote is just another example of us wanting to mimic and desire what our oppressors have. Exactly. Exactly. We just want to be like these other nations. We want to be like these other nations. We don't want to have to answer to the Most High for anything. The sad part about it is it doesn't matter what we want. We're gonna answer for it. We're answering for it now. That's why it's so wrong when people say, well, free will, God gives you free will. No, no. If you are Black, Latino, or First Nation, we do not have free will. If we did, we wouldn't be in the position that we're in. It's like it's the analogy that your child has the free will to do whatever they want. They don't. I mean, they can do the wrong thing. There's a punishment and a consequence that comes along with it. That's the same with us. You can do whatever you want if you had free will, then there would be no consequence. Our people, our nation, is in the position that it's in because we don't have free will. Because the Most High told us, He gave us the law, statutes, and commandments, and He did not deal so with any other nation. All right, let's keep going. Where did I leave that? Hold on. Okay, such topic is how it should be taught in the classroom, the future of affirmative action and college admissions, and how to address the persistent inequality in income and wealth in the Black households, including monetary reparations. These are all things that this is what happens. These politicians talk about, especially when it's time for elections. This is how they get our people. They talk about these topics as if they're important, as if our people need to come out and vote so that these things can change. The wealth inequality gap, we broke that down not too long ago. That is something that is just persistent and consistent in this country's history and now. Because again, this is the purpose. This is not on accident. We align ourselves with this nation. They don't mind us doing so because then they absolutely take advantage of us, as we just read. We are a prey. But every election cycle, they bring all this up like there's going to be a change if black people come out and vote. Same with reparations. They've been talking about that for how long? Ever. It's never going to happen. Why? If nothing else, a good chunk of everybody in there are the descendants of slave holders. They're absolutely not going to vote for it. They might listen. If I was one of them people, I'd be like, "Nah, we can't go with that. Y'all might have me, I might have to write a bigger check than everybody else. We can't do that." And let's be real, none Esau is not going to do that anyway. Esau has no interest in doing anything for us. Knowing foot, matter of fact, we're going to get into that. Let's keep going. It says the Reuters Ipsos poll for this meaning reparations report showed that white respondents who said they were aware of having a slaveholding ancestors were more likely than other white people who support paying reparations. 42% backed the idea compared to 24% who said their ancestors did not enslave people. So what that means is what they're saying, what they're bringing up is if white people did not own slaves and they don't have any ancestral link to any slaveholders, then their perspective, or according to the study, about 24% of those people were in favor of reparations. But if white people who knew that they were related to slave owners, 42% backed reparations. Now that sounds like, wow. Well, yeah, they're more likely to support reparations if they know that their ancestors owned slaves. But let's also put this in perspective. That's only 42%. That's 4 out of every 10 people. That means if you had 10 oppressors who know they are the ancestors of slave holders, and you ask them, what do you think? You think we should give people reparations? 6 of them say no, knowing that they are the direct descendant of a slaveholder. 6 out of 10 of them are not interested in anyone receiving reparations. And as Officer Yagadar says so accurately, the reality is that the slaveholders were the ones who actually got paid reparations. Reparations were paid to the slave owners. And again, you have their descendants. If it's 10 of them, 6 of them going to say, no, we still shouldn't do that. And their ancestors got paid. This is how wicked this oppressor is. This is what we need to know so we fully understand that we don't need to be voting. We need to follow these laws, statutes, and commandments so we can have brotherly love. As we shared a few classes ago, us following the law, statutes, and commandments is not just for us. It's for us and our brothers and sisters. Because the Most High has no problem affecting everyone when one of us mess up. And that's his prerogative. But what it should do to us is give us the compassion and the love for our brothers and sisters to make sure we don't do something to put them in harm's way. That's why following the laws is what love is. That's why it is brotherhood. That's why it is sisterhood. Because if you do that, you protect yourself and you protect your brother and you protect your sister. But to not follow the law, you put everybody in harm's way. All right, let's keep going. All right. I think I want to skip down real quick. No, wait. Oh, here it is. It says Gates said identifying those family connections, meaning the connections of people to slaveholders, is not a blame game because we do not inherit the guilt of our ancestors' actions. That is absolutely wrong. That is not right. And we need to absolutely understand that. All right. We go to, where are you? Oh, here it is. We're going to go to Psalms 137. We're going to start at verse 7. Huh? Psalms 137 and verse 7. It says, Remember, O Most High, the children of Edom and the day of Jerusalem, who said, Raise it, raise it. Who knows what that means? Who knows what raise it means? Give off the Yagadah hand. It means to destroy it. So it's saying, remember, please, look, Most High, please remember Edom. Please remember Esau. Please remember Esau in Jerusalem when they came and said, raise it, destroy it, even to the foundation thereof. Please remember them, right? Verse 8, O daughter of Babylon, who art, it's like who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Daughter of Babylon, that's Esau. That's America. Who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Remember, listen, we're going to be happy when we get to repay Esau the way he paid us, the way he served us, how he treated us. There will be a repayment for it. And we're going to be happy about it when it happens. Damn right. Damn right. Verse 9, happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stone. They're going to pay. This whole idea that we don't pay for the how do they phrase it? Let me get back to it. Let me get back to it. I meant to pull that up. Shabaka, y'all. We do not inherit guilt for our ancestors' actions. That is an absolute lie. They absolutely do. And as much as they don't want to believe it, it's the truth and it's going to happen. All right. Was there anything else in here? Um, where was it? In addition to the political elite Reuters identified, including lawmakers representing northern states such as New Hampshire, Maine, and Massachusetts, there are millions of Americans who are descendants of enslavers as well, said Tony Burrows, a genealogist who specializes in helping Black Americans trace their ancestors. The reality is, oh, and here it goes. It says census from the 1960s from 1860 indicate that 1 in 4 households in states where slavery was legal enslaved in states where slavery was legal enslaved people. 1 in 4 households enslaved people in every state that it was legal to do so. According from the data from the IPUMS, National Historical Geographic Information System. What's unclear is how the proportion of lawmakers who descend from slaveholders compared to that of all Americans. Among scholars, there's no agreement on precisely how many Americans today have a forebearer who enslaved people. But we know it's a lot. It's a lot. All right. Nope, 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 nope. Where is it? So it's to be sure, many white Americans whose ancestors came to America before the Civil War have family ties to the institution of slavery, and Northerners and Southerners alike reaped enormous economic benefits from enslaved labor. That's just the truth. Whether Because now this obviously is eye-opening for the so-called governing body of the country, right? To see so many people who have ties, direct ties to uh, people who owned slaves. The reality is, as it says, to be sure, many white Americans whose ancestors came to America before the Civil War have family ties to the institution of slavery, and Northern and Southerners alike reap enormous economic benefits from enslaved labor. Even if your family did not directly own slaves, if you are white, it says before the Civil War. I'm going to say even after. This is talking about chattel slavery. We know we are still in slavery, and these other nations benefit. Obviously, Yagadar shared, I think, in last night's class, all or so many of the companies who benefit from the quote unquote slave labor that's associated with the prison system. They continue to eat and feed off of us and prey off of our people. And the only way we can stop it is to separate ourselves from this wicked kingdom and follow the law, statutes, and commandments. All right. And with that, I'm going to get to the security announcements real quick. We're going to go on. All right. We are the ISUPK. Start out at 1 West 121st Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brother and rule for new brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to share themselves with the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if the brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother and sister court each other. After this 6 month period, the brother and sister will get permission to marry from the head. So I can tithes, which is a commandment, can be found in Numbers 18:21 and Malachi 3 verses 8 through 10. It means tenth in the Hebrew, ma'ashara, 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. You can give it to the Treasury Department. You can go to ISUPK.com and you can submit your tithes through PayPal there. You can, if you do it there, you'll have your records through the PayPal system, through your email, so on and so forth. Priest Fund, the free will offering for priests, not mandatory whatsoever amount you want to give. Upcoming Holy Convocation days. The next one is the memorial blowing of trumpets. That is going to be September 15th. So everybody keep an eye out for that. Keep an ear out for that. If any brother wants to become a trooper in the school, you can start wearing all black. That's black boots, shirt, pants, headband, and war scar. Make sure you get in contact with the school to let Officer Urash Ahmad, the Captain Nasrat Shah, know that you want to be a trooper in the school. All right. Oh, so The white officer, I appreciate it, brother. All right, with that, I'm gonna say Shalom, Yahweh Shem Shabbat to the brothers, Yahweh Shemar Alatham, Ba'Shem Yahweh to the sisters. Shalom, Israel.